When I think of what Israel means to me personally, I get chills. I've been raised in Connecticut. I've lived in all these places in the United States and even overseas, and I've never felt home the way I did when I stepped foot in Israel.
We are so privileged to be alive at this time. Israel, 76 years old, vibrant, strong, and for the first time in 2,000 years, we're able to celebrate, engage with, and support an independent Jewish state. For me, Israel is core to my identity from a spiritual perspective, from a perspective of Jewish history, from an understanding that for centuries, without a state of our own, we were powerless and we were subject to the most vicious anti-Semitism, culminating, of course, in the Holocaust. And out of the Holocaust, not because of the Holocaust, but out of the Holocaust, Israel was born with the promise that Jews would never be vulnerable again.
And so that connection with Israel is really, it's the connection with our brothers and sisters that are standing up on our behalf and putting a stake in the ground and making the world a little bit safer for us here in the United States. And I think that peoplehood connection is something that others don't understand who aren't Jewish, that we're not just a religion, but we're a peoplehood. This community's connection with Israel has been strong since the Federation was founded here. We support Israel not only through our dollars, but through people-to-people connections. And we support them in good times and in bad.
The Greater Hartford Jewish community's connection to Israel actually goes back to the 1890s. From that period through the founding of the state and beyond, Hartford was viewed as one of the core centers across North America of Zionist activity. So much so that in 1921, Chaim Weizmann, one of the leading ideologues and founders of the State of Israel, visited Hartford along with Albert Einstein, and there was a massive parade across hundreds of cars across downtown Hartford.
We took a group of 11 people to Israel in January. It was really built as a volunteer mission, and we were there for 10 days.
We wanted to be present. We wanted to show up to demonstrate solidarity at this most difficult time, at a period of time that in many ways has had no parallel since the Holocaust. But a key goal of the mission was to volunteer. There's a huge labor shortage in Israel now. There are fields with fruit that's rotting on the vine. There are social service needs that have to be met, and they need hands. They need volunteers.
It was just an incredible cohort and an incredible group, and we got to really get this complete lens and this complete view of what was happening on the ground in Israel, while also really supporting the economy and supporting the people who needed it most at this point. And as one of the participants said, we came to give the entire country of Israel a big hug, and we feel like we really did that. When we were in Israel in January, we had this unbelievable opportunity to go into what's now being called the Western Negev, or formerly was called the Gaza envelope, and we went to Kfar Aza.
It was one of the kibbutzim that was most impacted, and we toured a area of destruction that is literally unimaginable. It was like a scene from the pogroms that we had only read about in Jewish history in 1800s in Europe. Dozens of small apartments that had been utterly destroyed, pictures of the former residents of those apartments who had either been murdered or kidnapped. Most of those pictures were the faces of young people.
Then we walked through the kibbutz, and I still can't fully wrap my arms around what I saw. Like, this is the place where people were murdered in their beds, young adults, where they were taken hostage into Gaza and where they remain hostage in Gaza to this day. And I think it's going to take me years to really be able to fully understand the impact of what I saw.
It's a small community, but a close-knit community. And their lives, of course, were like the rest of the communities around Gaza, shattered on October 7th.
David and I had this unbelievable opportunity to meet with the woman that runs Communities Together, which is the name of this partnership project through the Jewish Agency. And over dinner, she explained to us about this new initiative to pair all the communities in what they're calling the Western Negev, or the Gaza envelope, that were impacted in some way with communities mostly in North America, but also around the world.
Kibbutz Sufa was founded in the 1970s by Olim, South America. It was originally set up in the Sinai Desert, and when Israel returned the Sinai to Egypt, that community was uprooted and reestablished itself very close to the border of Gaza, not far from the border of Egypt.
We had this unbelievable experience to be able to go spend time with the residents of Kibbutz Sufa, who are living in two different places. We went to Ramat Gan, despite what they had been through. You could tell that they shared a connection that most of us only have with our immediate family.
We have agreed, out of the relief fund that we raised, out of the $7 million, to contribute at least $250,000 a year for 3 years, $750,000, to support the rebuilding of that community. And we will be working with the community members, the leadership, and other partners in Israel to meet the most urgent needs as defined by the members of the kibbutz. We had the opportunity to meet a young married couple when we visited with some of the residents of Kibbutz Sufa who are now displaced from their home. Their story in particular stood out.
I would say the person that made the biggest impression was a young mom who had a 2-year-old child, and she was 7 months pregnant with their baby, their next child.
And they were cuddling in bed on October 7th, awakened to the sounds of terrorists outside their home.
And she explained the story of what happened that morning. Her husband was one of the 5 security members of that kibbutz. And at the point that they realized this was different, their 2-year-old woke up. And they brought the 2-year-old into the bed with them, and the 3 of them were snuggling in the bed. And at that point, their biggest concern was, can you go back to sleep and give us another hour of sleep? And as a mom, that moment of everyday life, right, where your kid just gets up early and comes into your bed, like that happens every day for moms of kids that age. And to then have the day turn so dramatically.
As the situation became apparently desperate, as the reality dawned that the army wasn't in a position to help them, Yuval put on his combat boots, led his pregnant wife and his infant child to the safety of her parents' home with terrorists outside, and then joined with 4 others to defend the kibbutz against dozens of terrorists for over 4 hours. And then this amazing, ein brera, no choice, got to go out and do what we have to do attitude that Yuval exemplified with 4 others. They were the civil guard of the community, and they realized that they were the ones that stood between their families and the terrorists. Ophir and Yuval's actions, their description of what they experienced, really exemplify the commitment and resiliency demonstrated by so many Israelis on that day and now beyond.
I can't really explain in words what that was like, but it just felt like they were us.